From some big plays down the field to an injury, we got the full Treylon Burks experience at Titans joint practice. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Titans joint practices with the Seattle Seahawks. It was a crazy day that had a full Treylon Burks experience. It was a big day for Treylon Burks. We're going to go over everything that happened, including his injury, but no reason to be concerned. Also, the Titans defensive line ate up the Seattle Seahawks at a point in time during practice. We'll talk about what they were able to do. Also, Calvin Ridley did struggle on the day, but I am here to tell you that there is no reason to freak out. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, tomorrow, I'm going to be back to recap Thursday's joint practice with the Seattle Seahawks. Friday, I'll have a bonus episode doing a preview of the Titans' next preseason game, and then I'll be here live on the Locked On Titans YouTube channel Saturday night after the game to recap all the action. Shout out to my everydayers out there, though, tuning in Monday through Friday for every episode. Couldn't do it without you guys. Also, throw a thumbs up on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Throw a Titan up down in the chat. And with that being said, let's talk about this joint practice because, again, it was the full Treylon Burks experience. So Burks made some big plays on the day. Number one, the very first one-on-one between a Titans wide receiver and a Seattle Seahawks defensive back. It was Devon Witherspoon, who's a very, very good player, against Treylon Burks, and Burks absolutely roasted him deep. I mean, 5-6 yards of separation, just absolutely worked him, got there, made the catch. It's just one-on-ones, but, you know, Treylon Burks isn't some route-running maverick at the end of the day. Treylon Burks is big and fast. That's what he does well. So if he can add some route-running savvy to his package, that would just allow him to take that next step that we have been waiting on for so long. So Treylon Burks comes out of the gate with a very, very good win in one-on-ones then. A contested catch in the third down period. Big play by Burks. Also, had an in-breaking catch from Will Levis. Had an out-breaking catch from Will Levis. According to multiple reports, Treylon Burks got a ton of targets in 11-on-11s. Obviously had the big catch in one-on-ones. Had a slant that he caught and bounced off a tackle, according to reports. So it was just a big day for Treylon Burks, and that is exactly what we needed to see. I talked about it on yesterday's preview. My everydayers will remember. Let me know if you're an everydayer down below. If you aren't an everydayer, well, you need to be one. No one is pumping out the content that I am on a daily basis for the Tennessee Titans. So, but we talked about it yesterday. Treylon Burks has made plays in training camp, like he's been good, but we haven't heard of Burks making these big, explosive plays, the kind of things that you want to hear to think that he's going to take a big jump to that next step. Well, we got a little bit of that today. So that was nice to hear because against a Seattle Seahawks defensive back group, or at least their cornerbacks, with Tariq Woolen, with Devon Witherspoon, like that's a pretty decent group. Those two corners right there are pretty good corners. You know what I mean? So I wanted to hear that Treylon Burks was having success. I wanted to see him take that step. It's one thing to win against the twos and Titans training camp every day, but to go out there and win against the Seattle's best cornerback or one of their, I mean, Devon Witherspoon made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. So we're talking about a very good player. So it's just nice to hear that Treylon Burks was making plays out there. I talked about this, but this is more than just this season. Like the Titans need a young wide receiver to build around going forward. Calvin Ridley is going to be 30 soon. DeAndre Hopkins is already in his 30s, and he's on the last year of his contract. Tyler Boyd is 29, going to be 30. The Titans need a young wide receiver to build around. It's one of their biggest needs going forward. If Treylon Burks could just be that guy, like he's there, he's in the locker room, he's on the team already. If Treylon Burks could just be that guy, it would be absolutely incredible for the Titans. So we're all hoping that Treylon Burks makes that play. But again, it was the full Burks experience. We have an injury as well. Treylon Burks at the end of practice, going up for a deep ball, pulls up limp, doesn't finish the route, holding his leg. Apparently, it was just cramps. So there was a lot of people cramping out there for the Titans. We'll talk about that more as we get through today's episode. There was a J.C. Latham health scare as well that had all of us collectively terrified. But Burks was just a cramp, so he's fine. Brian Callahan said after practice that they really had no injury issues, that it was just cramps for a lot of different guys. But to me, it's like it may have just been a cramp, but literally it was just last week. Treylon Burks at the end of practice gets banged up, rolls his ankle, and is out for the last couple of plays of practice right at the end. He's fine. He plays on Saturday night, but it's like, man, can you just go a week without getting banged up at all? And it comes back to my concerns about Treylon Burks, the body control, the balance issues. He just seems like he's bigger than his body control thinks that he is. So I kept calling it's the full Treylon Burks experience. Big plays, some really fancy wins that are right in front of your face that are obvious, some physical play, a contested catch, a big slant over the middle. He might have fumbled on one. I heard it was like incompletion, would have been reviewed, whatever. You'll see. But then we get a little banged up and we have to worry for a little bit. It just, everything about what we saw from Treylon Burks in the past 2 seasons, in his first 2 seasons, we got in one day out there. So ultimately, I just can't get back on the hype train, guys. I know that some of you guys are. I know that some people are ready to be hurt again, to use the meme phrase, but I just can't. I could sit here and I could look into the camera and I could say, I think Burks is going to have a breakout year. I'm excited about what he's doing. He's had a really good training camp. He's done his one catch. He broke a tackle. He's making contested catches. Like all the stuff that you want to see Treylon Burks do and all the boxes that you want to see Treylon Burks check. He's in much better shape. He's making plays. He stayed healthy. He broke a tackle. He made a contested, like all the boxes that you want to hear that Treylon Burks is checking, he is checking, but I just can't. I just can't. In my heart, look at like, I get in trouble a lot because I tell the truth too much, quite honestly. I probably should hold off on some of the things that I think and that I really feel, because those are some of my bad takes that get me in trouble. But I'm willing to be wrong about Burks. Why? Because I was wrong once already. I thought that Treylon Burks would be much better than this coming out of college. I bet on Burks, and I lost. So forgive me if he can check every box in the world right now. I just can't go there again. So I hope that I'm wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong twice if it means that he comes back around and I was just early and not wrong. I'm willing to be wrong a second time there, but he could check all the boxes. It's just hard. It's just hard for me to believe. It's just hard for me to believe. So hopefully we wanted him to use these opportunities with DeAndre Hopkins out to take advantage. And it feels like he kind of has, but it still isn't enough to make me believe. So that is what it is. Let me know if you guys believe in Treylon Burks down below. We're going to talk about this defense, though, because it was a sack party for the Titans defense. Before we get into it, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. All right, guys, what are your self-care non-negotiables? Like maybe you never skip leg day. Maybe you always make sure that you have yourself a cheat meal on the weekends. Maybe you like to have a six-pack on a Friday night. I don't know. It's up to you. Therapy should be one of those self-care non-negotiables. When your schedule is packed, you got kids' activities, big work projects, and much more, it's really easy to let your priorities slip. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, that is when your non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. I've worked with BetterHelp before as well. It was a good experience. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month today. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Titans fans, let's continue today's recap of Tennessee Titans joint practices with the Seattle Seahawks. We talked about Treylon Burks having a big day, and I didn't mean to sully his big day or his good day, but the reality is it's just hard to buy into the Treylon Burks experience. But with that being said, we do got to talk about the defense, and then I want to do more of an overall view of the offense's day as well. Before we get into it, thank you again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday. Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Tomorrow, I'm going to be back to break down joint practice, so you don't want to miss it. Get subscribed, stay subscribed. You heard me. Do it. Tighten up in the chat, thumbs up on the video. Okay, anyways. 6 sacks in 12 plays, according to reports coming out of Tennessee Titans joint practices. 6 sacks in 12 days. I saw a couple of tweets where someone from the Titans defense yelled, y'all better get your quarterbacks a massage, because they were all over the quarterbacks. I saw Jim Wyatt reported that Jeffrey Simmons was screaming, this man can't block me, blah, 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 blah. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons had a big day. He was in the backfield constantly. He was making plays. T'Vondre Sweat looked good again as well. Finally back in the first team defense with Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons. Sounds like the pass rush in general was just great. I mean, again, 6 sacks in 12 plays. I saw another report that said the Titans got 4 straight sacks on the Seattle Seahawks quarterback. 4 straight. After the pass rush played the way that it did in the preseason game, this is good to hear. Like, this is now, I will say, like with Burks, this doesn't make me all of a sudden believe in the Titans pass rush. A lot of this pressure is coming from blitzes as well, which we know the Titans are going to do a ton of, especially if you watched my defensive pressure film breakdown on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel. If you aren't checking out my film content on Tic Tac Titans, you're already watching me on YouTube or listening to the podcast on a podcast app. Just go check out the film that I'm talking about all the time. I'm doing the breakdowns for you. It's for free. But we saw the defensive pressures in the film breakdown, the blitzing of linebackers, the blitzing of slot corners, the blitzing of safeties off the edge. Like, that's what you want to hear. That's what you want to see. But even with all these reports coming out of camp, I still think the Titans edge rush group is going to be maybe one of the weaknesses on the team. But according to Jim White, Rashad Weaver made a ton of plays. Shane Ray made some plays. Obviously, Harold Landry is out there. So a pretty good day for the Titans defensive line. Now, some of that is against the second string Seattle Seahawks defense, but you want to see your depth players play well. And we know that Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat were giving the Seahawks a ton of problems up front. The issue is the Titans were good in the run game and good up front and physical, but the pass defense was just not there. According to all reports, I got a lot of reports from Seattle Seahawks reporters who were there as well that I was seeing. DK Metcalf lit the Titans up. Ton of catches, deep catches. Like, DK Metcalf was going nuts. Now, before you freak out, I will say I was wrong. No L'Jarius Sneed. I thought for certain that the idea for the Titans was to not play their starters in the preseason game at all, like less starters than we even saw last week, because their starters would get a ton of good work in joint practices, really intense, really hard and gritty practices on Wednesday and Thursday. But apparently I was not 100% correct on that, and L'Jarius Sneed was still not out there. Now, I saw some Titans fans going, are we worried yet? No! We knew, and you'll hear this from me again later when we talk offense. We knew that L'Jarius Sneed doesn't practice. We knew that when we traded for him. When the Titans traded for L'Jarius Sneed months ago, we knew that he wasn't going to practice a ton. We knew that. He didn't practice in Kansas City. He barely did training camp in Kansas City. And then he went out there and played nearly 100% of the snaps in the regular season. So there was just no reason whatsoever for everyone to all of a sudden freak out now. Like, we knew that L'Jarius Sneed was not going to play. It's rest. He's not hurt. This is just the management plan that they have been talking about the entire offseason. So everybody just relax. Now, speaking of limited players in the secondary, Jamal Adams apparently made a big hit on the very first play of one-on-ones on Kenneth Walker. Stopped a run right at the line of scrimmage, and he started letting the Seahawks hear it. All right, apparently you could hear Jamal Adams all practice long talking. But I did see a Seattle reporter say that after that first play, he was kind of limited in the practice. Like, he didn't participate a ton after those first couple of plays. So, again, it's like with L'Jarius Sneed, we know that Jamal Adams is going to be managed. He's not going to play every single practice like some of these other guys. So I know that DK Metcalf had a great day, but with no L'Jarius Sneed, with no Cheeto Awuzie, that means that Roger McCreary is probably playing outside. I saw Roger McCreary with a one-on-one rep against DK Metcalf, and he lost. Well, we know that Roger McCreary does not play well against big physical wide receivers on the outside. That's why he's a slot cornerback. So to me, although the Seahawks did have success in the passing game, especially with Tyler Lockett, that is where the Titans are missing people, and that is where people are going to be out of position. So I guess I'm just not that concerned. The one thing I am concerned about, though, is that according to reports, the Titans linebackers struggled. There were a lot of completions over the middle of the field, and I don't think that's getting better, guys. I got to tell you. And I mentioned this online recently, but the Titans couldn't turn this from one of the worst rosters in the NFL to one of the best rosters in the NFL in one offseason. That was never going to happen, ever. And linebacker was one of the spots that I thought, hey, this probably isn't very good still. Look, I'm excited about Kenneth Murray. Again, he's got elite linebacker aesthetic. Like, he looks like an awesome linebacker. Just his look, he's got the crop top with the freaking 12-pack abs. What an Adonis, man. I'm jealous. I'm not afraid. He's a good-looking dude, 12-pack abs. I wish I could be built like Kenneth Murray. Instead, I'm built like a troll. I wish. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be really good. We can hope, but he's always been a liability in coverage, doesn't have good awareness in coverage. And we know that Jack Gibbons struggles in coverage as well because he's just not a very good athlete for NFL standards. Now, again, Jack Gibbons is 100 times the athlete I'll ever be or could hope to be, but you don't compare NFL players to me. That's not good enough. You compare them to other NFL players. And at the end of the day, Jack Gibbons just isn't a good enough athlete to be great in pass coverage. He could be in the right spot. He can have great awareness. He could be the smartest football player ever, but he doesn't have the athleticism to be a good coverage backer. So I'm not as worried about the secondary letting DK Metcalf run wild because we don't have the top two corners out on the field, and the number 3 corner is not a good outside corner. But I am very concerned about, against San Francisco's second string offense, there were tons of holes over the middle of the field. That's going to be a problem for the Titans all year long. Just get used to it. And that's why I don't think this team is going 12-5, 13-4, stuff like that. I think the Titans could win 10 games, maybe 11 if they get lucky, but they're probably going to be 8-9, 9-8, because there are just some areas on this team like linebacker that just simply aren't good enough. We can get hype as we want, but not everything on this team is going to work perfectly. And I think the linebackers are a spot where we could see some struggles. But with that being said, we got to talk offense. Calvin Ridley struggled, but again, I'm here to tell you, it's not a big deal, and I'll explain why. Before I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, I love sports. You guys know that from watching the show. It's pretty obvious. And I love them so much that I never want the sports to stop. But we get into the summer. This time of year, the playoffs wind down. We get fewer games. The sports just stop sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And if you want to get a little early action on the NFL season, Will Levis, over 3,500 passing yards. I think the Titans win total right now on FanDuel is like 6.5 games. I'll take the over on that. Also, Titans plus 4.5 against the Bears week 1. Just saying. Make sure that you head over to FanDuel.com right now and start making the most out of your summer. It's FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down Tennessee Titans joint practices with the Seattle Seahawks. We talked about the Treylon Burks experience that we got on Wednesday. Talked about how the defense played pretty well, but had their own struggles. Some I'm concerned about, some that I'm not as concerned about. Now let's go over to the offensive side of the ball, where the Titans offense had good moments, but there were definitely some disappointing things as well. Before I get into all of that, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But now for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Football. You're going to get daily insights, the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your league this season. It's Locked On Fantasy Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Calvin Ridley struggled on Wednesday. There's no way around it. It wasn't a great day for the Titans wide receiver. In one-on-ones against Tariq Woolen, or Reek Woolen now. He took the ta off, which I don't think it's ever a good sign when you're changing your name in the middle of your professional career, but to each his own, of course. Just a lot of horror stories from people doing that. But Reek Woolen had a very good set of one-on-ones against Calvin Ridley. Really took him to task in press coverage on 2 attempts. Ridley did bounce back and catch a slant over the middle on Reek Woolen. I'm going to have a hard time with that, I can tell you that. So I guess Ridley did get a little bit of get back, but the 2 reps where Reek Woolen won on Calvin Ridley were demonstrative at the end of the day. It was a clear shutdown win. One, they didn't even throw the ball to Calvin Ridley because he was just locked up. Then to keep the bad day going for Calvin Ridley, 2 deep passes with Will Levis. He didn't get either of them. And now reports say that one of them was just a bad throw by Levis. It was too far down the field. He threw it too far. The other one, I've seen a report, I think it was from Teron Davenport, saying that one of them was on Calvin Ridley. But they asked Calvin Ridley after practice, and Ridley said that both of them were his fault because he was a little tired at the end of practice, and he slowed up at the end of his route. So is that Ridley just trying to take the blame? My old football coach has always said, be a thumb pointer, not a finger pointer. So maybe Calvin Ridley's just trying to be a good teammate and be a thumb pointer and take the blame himself. But Brian Callahan said that deep connection with Ridley is not linear. It's not like they're just going to get better every single day. Some days are going to be good. Some days are going to be bad. That is one thing. So looking at there was a drop on a slant from Calvin Ridley as well. I will say one of these things I'm worried about and one of them I'm not. So I am a little concerned with the Levis and Calvin Ridley deep connection. Like, you would just like to see that work out better by now. We're 3 weeks into training camp. They're getting live reps against other teams. The fact that Calvin Ridley is wide open down the field on deep passes and Levis just isn't hitting him, that is, something that it's going to be something that I keep in my back pocket of, does this get better as we get into the regular season? Now, the odds are that the very first game of the year, Levis is going to hit Ridley on a deep ball, and we're all going to go, why did we care about this in the middle of August? Like, blah, blah, blah. That's most likely what's going to happen. But if they struggle out of the gate, that could definitely hurt the Titans because they're going to be a quick, short passing game this year, and they're going to take calculated deep shots. And if Ridley is open down the field because he burns people, Levis better get him that ball. Like, it would just be such a deflating thing for the Titans to not hit on those big play opportunities. So, anyways, moving away from that, I am not concerned about the press coverage from Reek Woolen. I'm just not, okay? We knew this is just like what we talked about in the last segment with L'Jarius Sneed's management plan. We knew when Calvin Ridley got signed by the Titans that he does not do well against press coverage. We all talked about, and I bemoaned the fact that the Jaguars misused Calvin Ridley by asking him to be the X receiver when Zay Jones was out. They tried to put him on the line of scrimmage, taking press coverage. No, the way that you use Calvin Ridley is as a Z receiver, off the line of scrimmage, in motion, with a free release, so he can use his speed. He's 180-some pounds. The guy is a skinny guy. He's not a physical receiver. So, of course, against physical press coverage, man on the line of scrimmage, he didn't do his best. We know that. That is why the plan is to use him correctly, which is to get him out of those situations. So, Brian Callahan is smart enough to not use Calvin Ridley in those situations. So, I'm not going to get mad at a fish because he's trying to climb a tree and he can't do it. All right? I'm going to throw the fish in the water and let him swim. So, Calvin Ridley was a fish trying to climb a tree today. When the Titans put him back in the water in a normal scenario, it's going to be fine. So, I'm just saying, I am concerned about the deep pass a little bit. I'm not concerned about the press coverage thing. We knew that already, okay? Do want to give some credit to another wide receiver here, Jah'Quan Jackson, the Titans rookie, had a great day. In 7-on-7s, he caught a slant and took it to the house. I don't want to get into exact yardage because, that's how you get into fights on Twitter. But it was a big, long catch and run for Jah'Quan Jackson in 7-on-7s. And then in team 11-on-11, Jah'Quan Jackson caught a 70-yard slant. Not a 70-yard slant. He caught a slant over the middle and took it about 60 to 70 yards to the house. Okay? Tyler Boyd was out today. It's just a bruised foot. Everyone calm down. Brian Callahan said he's just got a small bruise on his foot. And let me tell you, I am also injured. I dropped a lawnmower on my foot earlier this week, and I have a bruised foot. So my name's Tyler. I have a bruise on my foot. Tyler Boyd's name is Tyler. He has a bruise on his foot. We're basically the same, okay? But with that being said, he's just going to miss a couple of days, and I am theorizing that they want Tyler Boyd out of practice this week so they can get more reps for the other slot guys. Think Kyle Phillips, Jah'Quan Jackson, Kearis Jackson, Mason Kinsey. There is a monster battle going on right now between the backup 4 slot receivers behind Tyler Boyd. So if you're the Titans, why would you want Tyler Boyd out there when you know what you're going to get from him? He's a veteran. Why not get as many reps as possible for the guys going behind him? Because that's the battle that you're going to have to make decisions on. Like, the Titans are only going to be able to keep 1 or 2 of those 4 guys at max. So let's get them more reps. And I will admit, I think I said this earlier, but I was wrong, and I misread the comments from Brian Callahan earlier this week. I thought he was saying that the Titans were going to play a lot of their starters in the joint practice and then see less starters than last week in the preseason game because they got their work during the week in the joint practices. Apparently, it was just we're not playing a lot of starters this week at all, including joint practices in the preseason game. So I think that while Tyler Boyd maybe does have a bruised foot, I think that they may be keeping him out. They may be extra cautious with him because they want to see what the guys behind Tyler Boyd are going to do. And Jah'Quan Jackson stepped up in a major way with 2 huge long catch and run touchdowns where he just blew by everybody else with his speed. And again, when Jah'Quan Jackson was drafted, that was why I gave him the big advantage over Kyle Phillips, because not only is he quick, but he's fast too. And if you know, quick is different than fast. Quick is short area movement. Fast is long speed. Jah'Quan Jackson gives you both, and he can punt return. I feel like Boobie Miles' dad. And he can pass. So I still give Jah'Quan Jackson the advantage over Kyle Phillips here. But a great day for the rookie, getting second-team reps instead of third-team reps because Phillips bumped up to the first team, and then Jah'Quan Jackson bumps up to the second team. The offensive line, Andrew Rupcich. If you didn't go watch my Andrew Rupcich film breakdown on the Tic Tac Titans film channel here on YouTube, I'm offended. How could you do this to me? All right? I did a 20-minute breakdown on a backup offensive lineman. Show it some love, okay? But the reason I did is because Andrew Rupcich performed great in that game against San Francisco. And he was getting rotated in with the ones today over Dylan Radins at right guard. Watch out for Ruppy, man. Andrew Rupcich, he's making a push to be a surprise starter for the Titans, and he had a good practice. Him and Peter Skoronski had a good practice. They opened up some lanes for Tajay Spears, according to reports. in one-on-ones. They stoned some guys. J.C. Latham had a good one-on-one rep as well. Latham did get hurt in the middle of practice, and everybody collectively freaked out. But it was just a cramp. It was just a cramp. A lot of cramping out there for the Titans. They need to drink their Capri Suns and eat their orange slices, okay? But other than that, according to Jim Wyatt, Levis was 19 for 27 in the practice. So overall, pretty good day. But want to see the offense perform better on the deep passes, make more connections there. Want to see the defense do better against the pass, specifically DK Metcalf. But overall, very good practice. No fights, which surprised me. The Titans are getting good work with Seattle right now. Seattle's a good football team, and I'm excited that the Titans are working with them this week because I think it'll be good practice, and that's what this is all about. So that's going to do it for my recap of joint practices. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow to break down tomorrow's joint practice. I may be a little bit late tomorrow as well. I saw you guys saying Tyler's late. I was just doing a different appearance, and it went a little long, and blah, 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 blah. It's a Titans podcast as well, so you might see my face somewhere else later this week. But tomorrow I have some medical things that I got to do kind of far away from my house. So the timing, I should be back and be ready to go by 6 o'clock. But if I'm 15, 30 minutes late, I hope you guys will understand. But with that being said, that is going to do it for me today, folks. Throw a thumbs up on the video. Throw a tighten up in the chat. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland. And this was Locked On Titans.